Pod.
Rugby pod. Good afternoon, gentlemen, our gentlemen, but the ladies that are listening as well. We're a day late. Apologies for that. It's been a bank holiday. The 400th one this month. I'm not complaining, though. Everyone else is, aren't they, Roberto? But we've had a hell of a weekend, haven't we, Andrew? And a weekend where I have been made to eat my words. I've been humbled as well. And off the back of that, I've got two massive apologies on this show.
Really?
Yeah, I have, yeah. Yeah, we'll get
Two
into
apologies. Oh, okay. Well, you have little faith, Jim. The mighty Shoe Army Northampton Saints defied the odds, travelled over to Dublin and did an absolute job over what Rob wants me to say. And I'm putting that caveat in there. The Kings of Choking in finals
you
footy.
can't put that in there, Andrew, off the back of our Friday night in Dublin where we went down.
I'm not saying that.
Well.
I'm just saying Rob said that.
Okay.
He wants to.
He weren't allowed to go, so he's a little bit. He's gutted. He's being rude.
Yeah, and to be fair to everyone, there weren't many people that have predicted Saints to go over and do a job like that. So, hell of a game that we're going to talk about a bit later.
Yeah, well, I had some lads that did see it coming because they were shushing people, they were holding pulses. Well, there was one in particular, but Henry Pollock's with the balls of steel. Finn Smith as well was phenomenal, and we'll be dissecting that massive win. But not just that, we'll also be looking at the ramifications, don't even know what that word means, but it's on there, on what that means. And this is the big news this week. I know, Biggs, you're doing a show later in the week around the Lions selections, but it gets announced this week. And off the back of the weekend, there'll be some big calls happening, I reckon.
There certainly will. I'm buzzing, to be fair. Can't wait to see what the squad looks like, how many people are in it. But it wasn't just Saints making headlines at the weekend. Bath went up to your neck of the woods as well, Jim, and beat your hashtag always Edinburgh to make it to their first European final in over a decade. So 2 European finals, 2 English teams. Come on, the Prem. The Prem's back. Who's slagging the Prem off?
Well,
look at us now.
Andrew, also, it's not just us two idiots that are going to be trying to dissect the weekend's game. Even though you were commentating, you're not an idiot. I'm not an idiot, but credible media. But we've got the great Daniel Bigger, who is, if you're watching, I'm going to say he is red, but he's not as red as A.G. Vance was when he was in Dubai all them weeks ago. So, right, let's get into it now. Settle back. You know the drill. Peel it back. Enjoy. And make sure you've subscribed on the #1 channel, which is Spotify.
Let's forget about the rugby for the minute, lads. We need the listeners and the viewers need to know about Friday night first before we delve into the rugby. Give us the key takeaways.
We'll give you the lead-ins, okay? So before Andrew gets the apology from Saturday, and people might think it's off the back of what happened on Friday in Dublin. It wasn't. But let's just talk about Dublin first. It was epic. We had a live show for Premier Sports ahead of the Leinster Northampton game. We had the great George Furbank, and he is he's a legend of a lad, and friend of the show, John Cooney, on stage with us, and it was brilliant. We love going to Dublin, Biggs. It's a great place to go. It's almost like a second home for the Rugby Pod Live, isn't it, Andrew?
It certainly is, Jim. We love Dublin. I get a bit of stick for putting blackcurrant in the drinks, but they go down smoothly, and the throat is still a bit sore from a few days and nights in Dublin. Well, we love it there, don't we, Jim?
Well, John Cooney's brother was enjoying it. Big shout out to Fran as well. Yeah. We got invited to the West Coast of Ireland about 100 times. I said yes 200 times to him, so he was a legend as well. But yeah, John Cooney was out with his missus, he was out with his mates, and we were out with them, which was really cool. So big shout out to Dublin ahead of the game on Saturday. It was.
What are these apologies about then, Jim? What's happened?
Oh, no.
Well, there's one to Northampton, which is a minor one, really, because they don't need me to apologise because they're on cloud 9. But I genuinely have a heartfelt apology to Bridge North Rugby Club. So, Biggs, the other lads know about it, but I thought I'd share it with you and the listeners on here. I had an event on Saturday night. Difficult place to get to, so from Dublin and then landed in Birmingham. And I was meant to drive, but I weren't feeling great, so I had to get a driver. And then, got on stage, and I reckon 2-3 minutes into the show, couldn't see, was slurring my words, had a migraine in the lead up to it. Really shouldn't have done the event, but because we had the live show in Dublin on Friday, felt I needed to front up, and literally walked off stage 2 minutes into the gig.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
So you've gone on stage, you've been introed, you started talking.
Been introed as a legend, yeah.
And then
main event.
3 minutes in, you've walked off stage and straight for the door?
Straight for the door, yeah. I thought I was going to faint or pass out, and I didn't want to do that in front of everyone.
What happened with the event, Jim? Did it just continue, or did they get somebody as a stand-in?
No, well, they must have thought, what the fuck has happened? So I wanted to come on the pod, and Goody was like, are you sure you want to share it? I was like, yeah, because I've gone there, I've made the effort, they've wanted me to come. I don't do many of these gigs, and the Parker boys who I worked at Rugby Pass with wanted me to go, and these lads do a lot for the MND, and they're doing some stuff for Ed and Hambo, and I met them when they were in Edinburgh a few years ago, and they were like, look, if we do something at Bridge North, do you want to come as like headline speaker? I was like, yeah, 100%, I'll do it. And I don't do many, so it was not an easy place to get to, and I was desperate to do it, but I felt ill getting there, and then I thought I could do the event, and my goodness me, I thought, yeah, I couldn't see. I literally couldn't speak. And look, lads, you'll back me up. Andrew, you've worked with me for over 10 years. We've done 30 odd shows, 40 shows a year. And even if you're not feeling well, which happens, right? Sometimes you're not feeling great, or you're feeling a bit dusty, you'll still front up and go. But yeah, I've never done that in my life, so I feel really bad.
But also, in your defence, you know, we're talking about Bridge North Rugby Club. You moved house last week. We were on the phone a fair bit last week. You moved house with 4 kids, and I was speaking to Jim all last week. He's like, I'm absolutely fucked, lads. I am dying. I'm moving house. How hard is it? I'm packing everything up. You know, it is how he's got stuff in storage. He's going back and forth everywhere. And then he gets to Dublin, and I didn't think you were going to make the Dublin event, to be honest, purely because of how fucked you were, but you battled through that. So, no, I reckon we've done 400 events together, maybe 300 events together over the 10 years. And that's never happened, James.
Missed one through snow in Belfast.
Ah, you did, yeah. Yeah, the flight. Yeah.
It wasn't anything to do with the black. You didn't have any black currant in your Guinness.
Well, that was the thing. I think they might have thought that. They were like, how much black currant, how much has he had the night before? But as I say, like, it was embarrassing. But I think more so just wanted to give an apology to everyone there. I'll make it up to you, like, if you'll have me back. And you don't, you know, that's, these things happen, don't they? But in hindsight, I shouldn't have done it. But yeah, so I just want to say a thank you to Bridge North for inviting me, and apologies for not delivering on what would have been, let's be honest, an unbelievable night. I'm sure it was an unbelievable night anyway. They were celebrating 10-year anniversary of getting to Twickenham, but I thought it was right for me to give them a shout out on the podcast. So that was the most important apology. And then the less apology, because again, they don't need me to apologise. And I imagine there's probably every rugby fan, probably a lot of their own supporters as well, that want to apologise because no one saw that coming, did they, lads?
This is the one thing I was a little bit, I don't know what you guys thought. I was a little bit confused at the end of the game why the Saints lads were a bit peeved and a bit annoyed with people talking up Leinster and Leinster being favourites, etc. Because if you asked anybody in that, apart from in that Northampton staff and playing squad, if you asked anybody in rugby, who do you think's winning that game? And probably every single person would have said Leinster would have had just too much for them. Nobody was saying that they were going to win. You know, I certainly didn't think they were going to win by 30, 40 points, which maybe that was a little bit of the annoyance. But like, I was a little bit confused. I was like, what? That for me, that shouldn't affect your mindset anyway. You should be thinking about yourselves, and it should be winning for yourselves, not to prove people wrong. And I just thought, like, the bookies aren't often wrong, are they? You guys know that. That's why they stay open and stay in business. I just found it really quite strange how that was a big thing straight away for them to go to, rather than the elation and the joy of being in the European final. I don't know what you boys thought.
I quite like it. It's a bit of a chip on your shoulder, isn't it? So they've obviously been, because you can't not see stuff now with social media and everything online and newspapers, whatever. Yeah, podcasts, because you get all the snippets everywhere if you're on unless you've got no phone like Ed Sheeran, or you've got not on social media. It's very hard for something not just it's very hard for something not just to pop up on your phone. So you do use it as kind of motivation.
My point, Goody, is did they think people were wrong in saying that then? I mean, outside of their environment, I was just a little bit confused what the point of it was, because if you'd have asked Razzie Erasmus, if you'd have asked Steve Hansen, all these people, all these greats of the game, coaches who know the game inside out, they probably would have said Leinster would have won by
yeah, but that's part of it, isn't it? Like, we've been there as players, and it's when you're the underdog, when you go, and that's all they had. I know they had the final that they want to get into, but their motivation for the week was, and we spoke about it last week, they'd have to fire as many shots as possible to even be in with a chance, and they fired more than their fair share, and that's why they won the game, and we'll get into it. But I think that was their build-up, wasn't it? Like, they're hearing all the noise, you're not winning, there's no chance. This Leinster team, unbelievable. Jordie Barrett, RG Snyman, not a chance. Northampton been poor this year, and they obviously played on that, and that was their emotion coming out. Like, it was, first and foremost, it was absolutely phenomenal to see.
Yeah,
let's be honest, it's an upset. It is an upset.
Yeah, it is. It was a hell of a game to commentate on as well. And you look back on it, and actually, when you look at the stats, right, normally games are won, and the stats normally end up being very similar to what the result is, right? So Leinster had 58% possession and 64% territory. So you'd look at those stats really ordinarily and go, there's a 10 or 15 point win maybe, right? But Saints, especially in that first half, and actually more so in the second half, but in the first half, ball in hand, their attack was clinical. You know, Sam Vesti, obviously very intelligent coach. You know, they were winning collisions, but also, you know, they weren't getting smashed way behind the gain line. So they were either neutral collisions and then move the point of contact, come back to another close ruck, and then they were just overloading short sides. And it was the try, Freeman's try just before half time, which ends up being from the kick chase, and Augustus gets the ball, and Sam Prendergast doesn't want to make a tackle. Surprise. And, you know, he gets the wicked offload away. That was the killer try, really. It put them 12 points up. But even going back to the start, and they'd obviously highlighted a load of stuff in this defensive system of Leinster's. And the line that Finn Smith takes from Ram against the grain to try and beat a kick chase that's coming up hard, and then has the ability to see the space, put the kick through. It was phenomenal, and their attack was so clinical. The opportunities they had, they took points every time. And then the flip side of that second half, their defence. I never knew Saints were that physical. And you got to shout some of the boys out. Curtis Langdon was ridiculously good. Iogan at prop as well, banging boys for fun. And we'll talk about Henry Pollocks, how good he was. He made more tackles than anyone in that game. 18 tackles, which was... You know, everyone's talking about his try. What about his try? It was a worldy try. But if you actually watch him and what he does at breakdowns, hits more defensive breakdowns than anyone else. Like, his work rate was off the charts. Kemeny in the back row as well was ridiculous. And they withstood this barrage from Leinster and effectively, you know, won the game at the end with a turnover that we didn't get a good view of how they turned it over. But no. Pierre Brousset just let it go. So I know there's a load of stuff that Leinster fans aren't happy with. But I suppose what goes around comes around, because they've got away with murder for a few years.
Producer Rob messaged me just after the game, and he said, like, Rob, I'll give you a shout out here. You summed it up really well, because you sort of said, like, he just texted me saying, like, proper club. And Northampton Saints are like a proper club. Yes, they've had a bit of a difficult year. They haven't quite been at the standards they were at last year across the board. But it just goes to show, if you invest in good people and good coaches and good staff and good people in an organization, it pays off, doesn't it? Because they've got some brilliant coaches. They addressed that they probably needed a bit more steel in their defense, which is what, like, Lee Radford's come in and made a huge difference. But they've got the best, for me, they've got the best attacking coach in the game in Sam Vesti. And I thought it was an absolute masterclass on how to attack against a blitz, and not just a normal blitz. Jack Nima's South Africa, Jack Nima's Leinster are blitzing off everything, whether it's short sides, whether it's scrum, whatever it is, they are coming off the line. And what Saints did really well was they kept loads of their passes short, so that they didn't allow Leinster to come off the line and hit your man and ball and lose the collisions and get choke tackled. It also, what it does allow you is it allows you to use footwork, get an offload, get another pass in. They use short sides as much as they possibly could. And they just manipulated that defense in terms of just allowed them to do all the work. And when you're playing against a team who want to come and get you, the best thing you can do is just let them do all the work. And then if they're coming 100 miles an hour, which Leinster were, one sidestep, one pass, one wrong, 1 meter left or right or out of position, and the pace and the power that they've got in that team was just frightening. I thought it was a masterclass in attacking rugby in that first half in particular, Goody, as you said.
You made a really good point about Sam Vesting. We've spoken about him loads on here, like messaging him over the last couple of days. We're going to go and meet him. He was out for a beer on Friday night as well with Shane Jennings, but just how relaxed they were. And this is quite an easy thing to reference because Northampton had nothing to lose, right? They were the underdogs. No one thought they were going to win. The narrative was set. But you just saw them in the coach's box, didn't you? Like they're laughing, like they're happy, they're comfortable. Then on the flip side of that, you saw the Leinster coaches, you could just see the stress was building throughout the game. And there'll be a couple of reasons for that. For the one that I've just mentioned, the other one is like this was Leinster's year. They brought in a Jordie Barrett, they brought in an R.G. Steinman to take them one step further, which was to win. But to be in the final, then to win the final. And yeah, I think it's a massive credit's got to go to Phil Dowson, Sam Vesty, and the whole coaching staff there. The English
Lee
talent
Radford,
that they brought through.
Fucking smashing pal.
Fucking some shapes he's in as well. You see him after the game, he looks like he could still go. He's Northerner.
Of course he
could. But yeah, I mean, it was just an absolute masterclass. And I'll say it like more specifically in the direction of English rugby now. The fact that we're talking about the Prem, it's not as good, leaking tries. Northampton aren't at the races this season. They won the Prem last year. To put in a performance like that, one is not a fluke. Like, you don't put in a performance like that and it's a fluke in Dublin. They played in Croke Park last year. That probably gave them a real good settler, I suppose. And then off the back of being underdogs, and actually over the last couple of weeks, we've spoken about Alex Mitchell on here being in form. We were talking about Tommy Freeman in and around the British and Irish Lions over the England campaign during the Six Nations. But look at his form over the last couple of weeks as well. No Courtney Laws, no Lewis Ludlam in their team, and the experience that they've lost. They were they were class from start to finish. It was so cool to see.
We need to talk a little bit. You mentioned it there about Leinster. And I say a little bit because you mentioned the likes of Jordie Barrett and R.G. Snyman and Slimani that have been brought in as the three guys effectively, mainly the first two, but the three guys to take them to the next step of winning the title. Because they've lost the title over lost three finals on the spin, all towards the death or in extra time or whatever, and that was going to be the difference maker. But obviously the big headlines pre-match was the fact that the best player, or one of the best players in Europe, or the Investec Champions Cup, or even probably in the world, in Jordie Barrett, was left on the bench. Now, some people have called it arrogant, some people have called it sort of loading your bench to negate the fact that Saints came back at them last year and the way Saints play in terms of chasing the game. But I heard a little rumour, and they will never know about this, we'll never know the truth. But we know sometimes with some rules and regulations with these overseas players in Ireland, there's caps around when they can play and when they can't play relevant to the Irish internationals. I was told Leo Cullen's hands were a bit tied and had to start Henshaw and Ringrose, and Jordie Barrett had to be on the bench, which, looking back now, crazy decision. Just pick your best players.
Yeah, I'm not. Would that apply in a semi-final of a European competition though?
Well, that's what I've heard. But you'll never hear anyone come out and say
if you look off the back of Jordie Barrett's performance in the last two games, and look, he came on early, didn't he as well? But
also as well, Jim. Like, it's so hard because it's such fine margins, isn't it? Because if Leinster scored at the end and the impact that Jordie Barrett had, you'd say, oh, it was brilliant. It was a masterstroke keeping him on the bench to get them over the line. I just think like South Africa have got this amazing, like this is obviously, maybe it's Jack Niemeyer has brought this in as well, maybe finishing with maybe a slightly stronger team. But like I found this quite interesting because South Africa basically start with their best front row on the bench, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And nobody blinks an eyelid at it. Nobody calls South Africa in a sense. Nobody has these because South Africa win. And because South Africa have won these close matches. Leinster have lost these close matches, so there's going to be questions on them. I don't think Leinster lost that game because Jordie Barrett was on the bench. I think Leinster lost that game because they were, as a collective, well below par. How many times do you see Leinster have 5 metre lineouts, 4 or 5 opportunities, spurn them, not convert into pressure?
On that point, they did have loads of 5 metre driving lineouts, and we've got the best maul disruptor in the game here in James Hamilton.
Thank you,
Jim,
Andrew.
how impressed were you? They only scored 1, didn't they, off a driving maul? Which we couldn't even see where that was down either, by the way. How impressed were you with the sort of defensive rearguard action of Saints in that sense? Because you'd expect Leinster to score 3 out of 5, probably, would you?
Yeah. And players like Alex Coles, who won't get the headlines because, well, we know who's getting the headlines because we're going to get onto the headlines in a minute, but absolutely phenomenal. And that was the thing, because the attack was the glaringly obvious thing to the common eye, and the line breaks and all of these things, these headline moments. But it was them other bits, the physicality, where you have to bar up harder than you've ever barred up against a team like Leinster when they're on your line and the momentum comes, and they always score. I don't know what, Andrew, you would have seen the stat pack that you got before the game, but I imagine their conversion rate in the red zone is the best, or one of the best.
It was up there with the best. Yeah, I think it was something like 15 or 20% entries.
There you go. And look, like some of this, and there's conversations around like the play at the end of the game. Was it a try? Wasn't it a try? Well, it wasn't a try. So it's all well and good looking back. And Leinster have been in games before where they probably say that they've got the rub of the green, or if you look from an Ireland perspective or whatever, Northampton put themselves in a position physically to be disruptive, to be getting turnovers. And look, we were chatting about Bruce, the referee, Pierre.
I thought you had a good game. I said it on comms, and John Bartley went, "What's wrong with you?"
John's bird. John, I can tell you what's wrong with you. You're hanging, and you were vulnerable. But like, these are the talking points, aren't they? But you knew going into the game, when you look at a referee like that, and we saw him, and we joked and we referenced the Scotland-England game where Scotland were robbed off the back of him, effectively. And who knows what was going to go on in that game? And it was literally a free-for-all at the breakdown. And Leinster can't complain about that, because they are the free-for-alls at the breakdown.
We're chatting a little bit, you know what it's like off the back of the weekend, Monday morning, coffee, breakfast, you always chat about the weekend's games. And we were saying about how well Saints attacked, and they did. They were absolutely magnificent. But Leinster, for me, and who are we to sort of question Jack Nema's tactics in terms of his defence and the aggression that they show? But we were chatting and we were saying, like, short sides is a perfect example why you want to generally. Sean Edwards always used to say he never wanted people blitzing on short sides. You'd want to get them towards the touchline a little, not concede 15, 20 yards, but certainly be a little bit, not force any errors, because any errors on the short side when you're blitzing are magnified because you haven't got as much space on the field, you haven't got as much cover coming across, etc. And we're also that we sort of were saying, well, we're saying, like, when you look at South Africa aren't the best first up front line defense. They conceded, like we were talking to Ben White, and Ben White was saying in that World Cup game against South Africa, they conceded 10 line breaks against Scotland. But where they're so good is their scramble and their speed to get back. And who plays on the wings for South Africa is Cheslin Colby and Courtney Aronson. And the speed and the recovery that they've got, I don't think Tommy Freeman scores one of his 3 tries if Cheslin Colby or Courtney Aronson's on the pitch, because they've got the ability and the speed to recover. But obviously, when you haven't got that and the recovery and this Peter Steph Toy coming across and the Khaleesi's coming across and corner flagging, I just felt like it was a really strange decision against a team who were so good at picking you off to blitz on absolutely everything, and they got punished for it effectively.
Yeah, 100%. The example of that, I suppose, from Tommy Freeman's 3rd try, I think it was, you add in the fact that O'Brien's there, and O'Brien, he was awesome for Leinster, I thought, and he has been recently as well. But because Prendergast fell off the tackle, O'Brien gets sucked in to the offload, and then it goes to Tommy Freeman. He's then got to catch up. So you're right, Biggs, the knock-on effect of different things going, blitzing here, there, and everywhere, but also your different players, and then you miss tackles or your two-handed touch. Do you reckon Prendergast shouted touch when Henry Polock ran past him?
I loved your line on commentary, Goody. He should have gone down personally. I think it was poor play from him not to go down, wasn't it?
It's no gentleman there, Henry Polock. He shouted touch. He got 2 hands on your arse, shouted touch, and you kept running. But yeah,
he also strikes me as the type in touch games. He ain't going down even if he's touched anyway.
No, you got to full bore him, haven't you, to stop Henry Pollock's. Yeah. But yeah, you can say, and Biggs, you said it then. I said it after the game on Saturday. It was significantly below par from Leinster in terms of handling errors, the defensive errors that they were making, blitzing in from everywhere. But I don't think it should be about that. I think it should be about how great Saints were. But defensively, fucking gang tackles. The physical. Iogan was an absolute beast. Trevor Davidson was a beast as well. He goes off 46 minutes or so, 47, 48 minutes. Elliot Miller-Mills comes on, right? And he was at Wasps. And Jim, you'd know him from Scotland. I'll be honest, I've never thought... He's a third, fourth choice player wherever I've seen him. He was unbelievable when he came on, just trying to smash people. And that's where you think the power of the Leinster bench, where they loaded it up with Jordie Barrett, with Conan, with Kelleher, obviously was going to be on the bench because Sheehan's world class. But the other players that came on for them, Ryan Baird came on. You look at those two benches on paper, the impact of the Saints bench just to keep that level of intensity was phenomenal. And it is fine margins, and of course, top level sport is always fine margins. And it seems to be fine margins for Leinster in this competition over the last 4 years and fall on the wrong side of it. But you've got to make this all about Saints and how good they were. Both sides of the ball, their intelligence, the skill, execution, the graft, the work rate, just the absolute will to win. And it just showed and typified it at the end. Leinster, people were like, why didn't they take the 3? It was an easy 3 points to level it up. And then if it does go to extra time, you've got momentum. But I think they scored 2 or 3 tries from their tap penalties from 5 metres out. So I think they thought they were going to score, but fair play to Saints, just barring up completely.
Do you think anyone's played their way onto the Lions playing then purely down to that game?
Henry Polock.
People think sometimes on this podcast, it's right, we are just going to, right, maybe it is Rob. Rob, actually, if this does happen, lads, can you talk about this player here just so we can talk him up and do a social clip on him? But I won't put my name to talking up players unless I genuinely believe that they are a class player. I know Delalio's got his views, Goody, hasn't he, on someone like Henry Polock, and sees Josh van der Fleer, or before the game certainly, as head and shoulders above him. I've seen him do stuff on the pitch where I'm like, that's world class, regardless of his age, regardless of the amount of games that he's played. Some of the stuff he's doing, if he can do it on the highest stage, which he did at the weekend, that gets him on the plane. Like, I think he goes now. I think it's got to the point where it's undeniable now that you can't take someone that has an X factor like that not only has done it internationally, all right, be it on the bench against Wales when he comes on for England and does it. Yeah, he's done it in the Prem, the old chip and chase. Forget all the headline things. Forget the line break, which was phenomenal. It's the rest of the stats. It's the turnovers. It's the tackling. It's the physicality on the line. And when we put out that post a couple of weeks ago about Henry Polock being a bolter, and I look at the comments, of course, because we do this podcast for the fans, right? You want to see how people are interacting. Some people are calling me crazy. They say I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I know what I'm talking about. I think I know what I'm talking about anyway. I hope I do. He's going. Go on, Faz.
Yeah. I think he's played himself on the plane. People were sort of suggesting that he might be in the frame prior to that game, but he's playing against 2 of the best Irish back rowers that were probably going to be on the plane anyway, and neither of them might make it now for different reasons. But Henry Polock made the most tackles, 18. He hit the most offensive rucks, 21, of any player in the Champions Cup semi-finals. He also gained the most amount of metres by any forward with 59 metres across both semi-finals. He's got the most turnovers in the competition and has scored 7 tries. So he ticks every box in terms of what you want a back rower to do. You want a back rower to make tackles? He's doing it. You want a back rower to hit rucks? He's doing it. You want him to create turnovers? He's doing it. So I don't know what more he can do, right? And he's got the point of difference and the X factor with a game-breaking ability that not many other boys have got in that space, have they? So I think he's 100% with his performance at the weekend and how he backs himself. I love him. He waved at me before, probably because he waved at me before the game. He was on the pitch.
Oh, of course he did. Yeah, same as Ros hugged you. And
you can ask him. You can ask him. He stretched in by the try line. Just gave me a wave. I gave him a wave back, and I was like, if I was picking MOM, which I wasn't because it was with RTE, but I'd have given it to him. He was phenomenal, and he's on the plane.
He's not going away, is he? It's like every time he gets questioned about can he roll his sleeves up, can he do it in a big game, can he do this, can he do that, he sort of responds and he's not going away. I think it's important to say, I thought Van der Fleer was excellent.
Played well, yeah, he did play very well.
I thought he was excellent, maybe slightly overshadowed by the brilliance of Polock, but Van der Fleer was excellent on the weekend. And I think for me, that game, a lot more Saints players needed to have good games to get on the plane than than Ireland and Leinster players, because I think a Lions tour selection is all about a combination of players who are in form and players who are playing and with confidence and playing in big games, etc., etc. But it's also about knowing what players you can trust and what players will Andy Farrell be comfortable in selecting. Now, for me, Josh van der Fleer is one of those players. So he goes for me. I think he'll know who he can trust in that Leinster team, even though they've had some disappointments. So I think Finn Smith needed to have a big game, and he did. And I think he's put himself right in the mix. He was exceptional, the way he picked off the defenders, the way he got the team, drove the team going forward. I think Tommy Freeman was thereabouts pretty much anyway, but he's put himself 100% on the plane. I think Alex Mitchell was thereabouts. But I think Polock and Finn Smith needed bigger games than Van der Fleer and Prendergast, because Andy Farrell knows what Prendergast and knows what Van der Fleer can do. So I think Lions selection is all about that combination.
Do you think there was any of those Leinster lads that potentially played their way off the plane then, conversely?
Potentially Prendergast, who we've been talking about. And this was the thing. And look, we've talked that up. I'm a massive fan of his. But around defence, the defensive potential frailties and the size in the collision. We've seen this with George Ford as well, Biggs. You can attest to this because, one, you're still playing, but more recently, the physicality that you need at 10. And you could bang, albeit a bit high, but you could bang. And we now know the way that Australia play, and they're sending runners down that channel, and the physicality that they've got. You have to take 10s now that are proven, I think, defensively. And in Finn Smith, you've got a tackler. In Finn Russell, you've got a tackler as well. Do you know what I mean? And you need to have that attribute. And I just think Prendergast just doesn't have that.
I thought you said Finn Russell might not go, James.
No, I said I could see it potentially happening because of Sexton and stuff like that, and the fact that you said he hates Finn. That's what you said.
I did not say that.
Well, stop calling me out.
Put
then.
words in my mouth.
But do you know what I mean, Biggs, with that?
Yes, I do. The bottom line is, and quite often as well, when you're in that 10 position, you find yourself in the backfield quite a lot, like you did for Pollock's try on the weekend. Now, Pollock's finished it brilliantly, as we've said, but quite often when you do have to make the odd tackle, they tend to be quite important ones as well, because 10 and 15 tend to sort of are the ones in the backfield, because you keep your best kickers in the backfield and best people in the air. So there is ways off set piece. You can hide him. You can put your blindside winger in the front line instead of him. A lot of teams do that. We do that here in Toulon, actually, probably because I'm 35 and can't tackle. And I mean, I don't play that often anyway, but it's kind of, there is a way of doing that. But yeah, I think the defensive side of the game is a slight problem for him. But there is a player in there. There's no doubt about it. There is a player in that, in Sam Prendergast's body. It's just probably, again, didn't help his cause on a big stage against probably a rival who looked probably a little bit more assured than he did on the weekend, didn't he?
Can we say that Finn Smith carries that almost like a year more experience than Prendergast? He's arrived on the scene, and his competition with Jack Crowley was with the headline around the Six Nations. I suppose you passed the baton to Finn Smith, Biggs, and then that was the coming of age for him. So a couple of years before Prendergast in a way.
Yeah, he's played a lot of rugby. I mean, they're still relatively similar in terms of sort of international experience, aren't they? You know, because Finn Smith only his breakthrough Six Nations, his breakthrough tournament internationally wise was this Six Nations. But I think having a little bit more experience in that, in the Prem, another year of really sort of bossing the game, bossing the team, driving the team from 10.
Winning the
does
Prem.
Make a difference. Yeah, winning the Prem, having the disappointments of losing games as well in terms of the last year's semi-final. And it's all about experience, you know. I think he's probably just a little bit, I think he's ahead of Prendergast at the minute. I personally, I think it'll be really interesting, but I think they take the three of them. I think they take Russell. I think they take Finn Smith. And I think Sam Prendergast just about gets himself on the plane.
Really?
Because okay, well, who else do you take at 10? Do you take Marcus Smith? Because Marcus Smith at the minute has been struggling. He lost his place in the England team to Finn Smith. And I'm a big Marcus Smith fan, but I think you'd have to say that Sam Prendergast is ahead of Marcus Smith at the minute in that list.
They're the three I'd go for.
Until the weekend. Before the weekend, I'd have said Finn Russell, Finn Smith and Prendergast were all going. Now, I'm looking at Prendergast and he's playing touch, and I'm being harsh. But you go back to, he got dropped for Ireland for the last game or rotated out for the last game after his performance against France. He hasn't played a massive amount of rugby. He's played the quarterfinal, semi-final and the last 16 game in the Investec Champions Cup.
I'm thinking Prendergast. Nah.
Lads,
I'm
I feel
picking
like
him
we're
now.
picking here we go. But we're like, even though we are virtual, all right, this is what the line selectors are going through. Can you imagine the conversations with someone like Richard Wigglesworth, who's like Owen Farrell? Like, he'll vouch for him till the day he dies, I'm sure. And then you've got some of the other coaches like talking. It's hard.
This is so funny because I always think like if you go off the back of the first 3 weeks of the Six Nations, everyone's saying Prendergast is your starter. Prendergast is your starter. Then a couple of weeks later, it's like Finn Smith's in the mix. Then it's Finn Russell. And it's like, it kind of everyone's opinion. And that's why I'm kind of a bit fed up of everyone's opinion and everyone picking a team, etc. I know that's what we're doing now, but almost like it changes week to week depending on if you play poorly, play well,
That's
etc.
me.
Like,
Biggs, that's me. I'll flip flop,
Yeah,
mate.
that's
I
what we
go
do.
week on
That's
week.
what we do.
But let's go for argument's sake. Let's take Tommy Freeman as an example, right? I think he is an exceptional player and is very close to being in that starting 15 in the first test. But let's just say he plays against Bordeaux in a massive game, European final, drops a few high balls, makes a few errors.
He's already
All of a
picked
sudden,
though.
then
Biggs, he's
everyone's
already
like,
picked though. He's already picked. He's already on tour.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is then it's like, does he warrant being in the start? You know, it's like it all depends then.
Because we were talking about James Lowe, weren't we?
I still think James Lowe's an exceptional player. It's just he hasn't got the pace and the power of a Freeman, has he? You know, and a little bit older and things. But it just goes week to week for me at the minute. And it's kind of like if you play well, you're going to be talked about in a positive manner for the Lions. If you play poorly, you're probably going to be talked about in a negative way for the Lions. So I think it's just let's get the team selected, and then we can pass judgment on potentially now, because it's been going on for so long, hasn't it? This sort of who goes, who doesn't go, who's on the plane, who's not on the plane.
I should have went. No, I should have went Biggs.
You should have gone, Jim. Jim, you should have gone. You should have gone.
I tell you now, still the biggest regret that I didn't go. I know it's no one else's fault, but for me, it's still the biggest of the big to go.
The worrying news coming out of Ireland is about Caelan Doris, which apparently looks a bit more serious than they first thought.
Well, there's a few rumours going around about it. He's obviously having an operation this week, and someone said they won't know the extent of the injury until he wakes up, which is the worst thing to happen for a player. You go down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and they say, you could be out for 2 weeks, you could be out for 6 weeks, you could be out for 6 months. We'll let you know when you wake up, bye.
But with shoulders as well, I don't know. Biggs, you had any shoulder ops?
I've been very lucky. The only thing I've had is in my whole career, the only injury I've had is my MCL, which I've been out for 6 weeks. So I've been very lucky, Jim. No.
Biggs, in a couple of years, you'll be having your knee done, your ankle done, everything will be fucked.
Gastric band as well, if you live the lifestyle of the great Andrew Good. But I've had 4 shoulder operations, and they're never quite the same. I know they're much better now than when I had the bodge jobs done, but if he's hurt his shoulder as significantly as they kind of think he has, and again, I'm not a doctor, albeit PhD, they called me in Australia, my mate Pesad Dave. But like, there's 2 ways they can do it. They can bodge it for the tour, which they might well do because of the Ireland relationship and the fact that he is that important to the squad. There's talk of him being captain, albeit we heard whispers that it's going to be Maro, and we can get onto captain as well. But yeah, shoulders and gnarly is what I'm saying, and it's not an easy injury to come back when you've got to go on tour and be in the intensity that Caelan Doris needs to be in.
Yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? So Caelan Doris would have been probably the out and out first choice 8, and there isn't many out and out 8s out there now, is there? You know, there's a few. Obviously, there's Willis for England in terms of Tom Willis, not Jack Willis. But you look at Wales, you know, Falatau, and people have kind of written him off, although they're being talked about again now because of the injury to Caelan Doris. Scotland. Ferguson sometimes plays 8, sometimes plays 6, doesn't he? Dempsey plays. Dempsey's injured, isn't he? So there isn't that many candidates. There's a lot of these hybrid back row players that can play 6, 7, or 8. You know, the Curry boys potentially. You know, obviously Henry Mayo Pollocks, Ben Earl, and Jack Morgan and players like that. But for me, Caelan Doris was integral to it. I had him down as being skipper. I think now, without a doubt, with this injury, the skipper will go to Maro. And then you're looking at who can fill the boots. So people are talking about Falatau again. What do you reckon? Get the old boy on one last rodeo?
I'll be struggling to see Falatau, and the guy's an icon of the game. Yeah. I mean, what he's done in that Lions jersey historically was remarkable, but I can't see it now. Mercy.
So Jack Conan will go as well, I think, won't he, as an 8?
Well, I was just about to say, he's probably a bit more of a natural replacement now for Doris, isn't he? Given he replaces him for Leinster and sometimes plays with him at Leinster, replaces him for Ireland, or comes on for Ireland in the Six Nations. So, and he, do not forget, Jack Conan was the starting 8 4 years ago as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he's got plenty of Lions experience and things, and probably, given that you're probably going to play 2 lighter weight back rowers, whether it's a Polock, a Curry, an Earl, a Morgan, whoever it is, you may well need somebody who's an out-and-out 8. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Tom Willis. Get another England lad on the tour. Come on, boys.
Over in France then, was that what you expected?
Looking back now, I predicted Bordeaux would win when I saw the teams. Malvaca's out injured as well. Dupont's obviously, we all know he's been out injured. And let's not forget, Bordeaux got absolutely hosed by Toulouse last year in the final. They've beaten them twice this year, albeit it was Toulouse's second team. But the fact that it's in Bordeaux at the football stadium, the atmosphere looked amazing. And it's the finest of things and moments, but Bordeaux had most of their boys, they were fully loaded. They had Lucu, they had Jalibert. I know Penaud comes off, but Penaud starts on one wing. You've got Barrett on the other, Moefana at centre. And you're looking at it going, Burros at fullback. They are fully stacked. And there were some question marks around a few players for Toulouse, but I didn't think they'd win it. I mean, 35-18 is fairly conclusive towards the end, and Toulouse came back into it. There were 2 scores behind. They come back, and it's like, okay, here we go, Toulouse, and then they just pull out another try. Pete Samu, we're talking about the Lions tour. Pete Samu was ridiculous for Bordeaux. Obviously scores the first try, and again, a lot of it was built around things for Bordeaux that weren't necessarily, you don't associate them with. So you associate Bordeaux with an all-court running game, get a turnover, chuck it to Barrett or Penaud or Jalibert or whoever, and they make something happen, bang. Before you know it, you're in a tumble dry and you've conceded 3, 4, 5 tries probably. But they were physical in defence as well, and nothing more so than, what typified it was the first try they score when Emmanuel Mierfou gets fucking boomed and turned over in the tackle, and they go the length and score. Jalibert puts the afterburners on and then feeds it inside to Pete Samu. So Bordeaux thoroughly deserved it. Lucu, his kicking was on point. They were winning a lot of the aerial battles, and their tactical play was great as well. And when you're missing 2 of your best players, and let's not beat around the bush, Toulouse's 2 best players are Anton Dupont and Malvaca at hooker, and neither of them were playing. And you take those 2 out, you take your best 2 players out of any team, you're a shadow of what you can produce.
You make a really good point, Goody, because I thought they were. I mean, the 2 games were exceptional when they were test level. Yeah. You know what I mean? They weren't club matches. That was 2 games were test level, nothing short of it. But you make a point about Malvaca and Dupont, but they also missed Kinghorn and Ramos. Yeah. So you got Malvaca, Dupont, Ramos, Kinghorn. I don't care who you are. If you're Leinster, Toulouse, Bordeaux, you lose those 4 players, you're going to be up against it when you come up, or you're going to be snookered a little bit when you come up against the very best. And like you said, Goody, Bordeaux were fully stacked, fully loaded, away from home, in the sun. So when you miss those players and it comes down to fine margins, then I think Bordeaux were good value for the money. There's just such a good, they're like a transition team, aren't they? In terms of like their defense, as soon as they get a turnover, the speed, the power, the pace they've got, whether it was from the restart where they scored straight after half time.
What about that try?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the best tries we've seen, isn't it?
Yeah. Poor old Grau, the scrum half. He gets turned inside out a bit like Tompkins did the other week, and then BLBRA just rinses him and then gets the offload back round the back for it. They were taking the mickey, weren't they?
How good is this final going to be, though? I mean, roof shut in Cardiff, the 2 teams who are, I mean, just ridiculously good, going forward. They both showed good sides of their defensive game. But I really don't know if Saints playing some really nice, fancy rugby is, it sounds stupid because that's the best way that for them to approach the game. But that's kind of what Bordeaux want as well. I watched them play La Rochelle a couple of weeks ago in Bordeaux, and La Rochelle mauled and scrummed them and kicked and chased everything against them and absolutely squeezed them and forced them into errors, into a structured play as much as possible. And I just don't know, like, this is a team who are absolutely frighteningly good in transition. So if you spill the ball in the middle of the park, you lose a penalty, a quick tap, whatever it is, you're under serious heat. So are Saints better off just worried about themselves and playing their natural game, or do they sort of change it slightly for who they're playing in the final?
Well, with a team like Northampton, and if you think of Alex Mitchell and Finn Smith, I know that they wanted to open up for England, didn't they? And there was the whole thing around the Six Nations that England weren't playing how they wanted to as players, which was more attacking. But we know that game is in them. Like, there's a foundation within an Alex Mitchell and a Finn Smith. Well, we know Finn Smith anyway. His short kicking game's brilliant, one of the best in the business. But yeah, I look at that Bordeaux team and, like you've just said, lads, off counter-attack and BLBRA, and whether or not Damien Penno is going to be fit, it looked like, again, not a doctor, but it might have been of his Achilles, did it look like, or his calf?
I mean, the way he was after the game, I'd be surprised to see him in the final in 3 weeks. Those were like tears of...
But those two, like them two wingers, are the best in the business together. And if it is an open game, like just Louis BLBRA by himself, he frightens anyone. He's just world class. But Northampton have it in them now. I mean, I can't even sit here and question them now, however which way they want to play, because they were that good at the weekend.
Yeah. The only thing they won't be able to do, you mentioned it then, Biggs, around La Rochelle, the scrummaging and doing all that stuff. Northampton can't scrummage.
I was reluctant to say that, but yeah, you're right.
Well, without being harsh. Iogan, I love Iogan, as Lou said. Davidson, good. They can get parity, but they're not going to be able to take it to Bordeaux, I don't think, in that sense.
I agree. That's
but
a good point.
They can, their game management with Finn Smith, as well as they'll stick to their own DNA, as well as having a good, strong kicking game, kick to compete, win the ball back, which they did a few times at the weekend, which, one turned into a try, etc. But yeah, I mean, they'll stick to what I think Northampton will stick to, their attacking mindset and the shapes that they can put on, but also understanding that you cannot by any means turn the ball over and play loosely with Bordeaux, because before you know it, you're under your sticks 3 times and it's like night, no biscuit.
It's not going to be a 9-6er, is it?
I don't
in a
reckon
couple of
so.
weeks' time.
I don't reckon so, no.
Well, we'll find out on the 24th of May in Cardiff, won't we?
Yes, we will, Roberto.
Right, lads, I've got some listeners' questions.
Oh, here we go.
So the first one is from Chris Bell, and he asks... Belly.
Oh, Belly boy.
To his mate.
How big's his belly?
100 Jim Hamiltons versus 1 gorilla. Who wins?
Yeah, what's all this stuff doing the rounds on social media? I know you're on Instagram now, Biggs, you'd be all over this algorithm, mate, but this has been blasting mine about people fighting gorillas. I don't get it. And then I saw this one video that people have got too much time on their hands about all these gorillas running towards 1 million men, and then the 1,000 gorillas end up smashing them to bits. Easy though, Belly. 100 Jim Hamiltons.
The question is, which Jim Hamilton? Is it Sponge Fist from his playing days?
Is it Bridge North, where he walks off stage because he can't see and he can't speak? Or
is it walking off stage saying, no, I ain't
with the
doing
poorly
this?
tummy?
Or which one? Give me the good version. Go on, Andrew. Or is it what version of me?
The good version of you, James?
Yeah. Come on.
I was going to say the red card against Irish.
All right, I'll take that.
I would not have wanted to get in the
When
middle
you were
of
a
that.
wildebeest, Jim, when you were a wildebeest at 15, 20 kilos heavier than you are now, but my God, the man could fight.
I'll be honest, if I'm at the level where I've got the kids and the stress level and the shouting level and the testosterone level and the aggression level is as high as that is, managing the 4 kids, I reckon there's a chance. Yeah, I do. But yeah, gorillas are quite strong. And I've seen chimpanzees, again, my algorithm on social media, that eating people's faces and stuff. I don't know whether gorillas do that as well. Do we know if gorillas do the same? I know that they're different, but yeah, gorillas must, they eat bananas. But yeah, I think so.
So what, you're backing yourself? Is that what
I'm
you're
backing
saying?
myself, effectively, yeah.
I'm
We're never
backing
going
the
to
gorilla.
find out, but I'm backing myself.
Alex Dillon asks LBB or Cheslin Colby for the best winger in the world right now.
LBB. Well, go on,
LBB.
Rob. Come on, mate.
Louis Bielbiere.
You reckon?
Cheslin Colby.
Oh yeah. For me, Colby is the best player I've played with. He was a disgrace. He could do everything.
Yeah, Colby will go down as one of the best players in the game ever.
I'm going to say Colby as well for one reason, because he does it both sides of the ball. Not that Bielbiere doesn't put it in defence, but you've seen some of the hits that Colby's made. Like
And
he'll
at the
blitz
highest
someone.
level in finals. Yeah.
Well, look, that's what we spoke about earlier. Like the work that he does in terms of tries, saving tackles, getting back for kicks, etc. It's not just scoring tries and all the brilliant stuff. But I think at this stage, I think Colby is probably just ahead of Obiama. But did you see his try or non-try on the weekend for Suntory? As he's over the line, goes to put it down, drops out of his hand, no try.
Well, the French will be loving that, because even like the French interacting with this will be like, there's no chance, because Cheslin Colby was a mile offside for the charge down, which they're saying is like what lost them the semi-final. But Louis Barrett is absolutely phenomenal. But Cheslin Colby, it will go down as one of the top 3 players, I reckon, to have ever played the game.
Right, and the last one from G-Kun19.
Who?
G-Kun19.
G-Kun, be careful there. Yeah.
So he asks, if you could pick a player from any previous Lions tour to start in the 2025 tour, who would it be?
I'm going to pick one which might surprise people.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going back to the last successful winning British and Irish Lions tour, because we're going back to Australia. 2013 was in Australia, and I'm going peak George North. I was a mega fan of George North.
Yeah.
What about when he picks Israel Folau up, just drives him back, but also just overall ability. Like, you look at the British and Irish Lions at the minute, and there isn't that sort of standout physical baller in the backfield or in the centres, and they've got some units the Aussie boys have in their back line. So just need a big unit. Prime George North, bring him back. Obviously, don't bring him back because he's not prime now, but you know what I mean. He's class, eh?
See, I think you make a good point there, Goody. But for me, I would look at this question as what is the position on this tour where we, or I say we, us as British and Irish fans, are most vulnerable. And I think, personally, that position is 10.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
And I think...
What's wrong with Finn Russell, Finn Smith? What are we saying, lads?
He doesn't rate Finn Russell, I can tell.
in Six Nations was indifferent, and there's questions,
You and him not get on, Biggs, or what?
Me and Finn, no, we're fine.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not
fine,
questioning.
It's a Scotland
yeah.
thing, Andrew. Look, let's not go here now. It's a Scotland thing with Biggs. He doesn't rate us.
But you think if you could have a prime Johnny Sexton in that team I think to gel everything together, to know that he's been there, done it, worn the T-shirt, I don't think you'd go a million miles wrong. I think that's probably the most vulnerable position outside of having Finn Russell. If Finn Russell gets injured, you are in the hands of slightly more rookies in that sense.
Rob, me and you pick one. Come on, we'll be quick. We don't need to explain it. You go first.
I'm going to go 2017, Owen Faz. Big Bosch at 12.
Really? Oh,
Big Bosch?
Okay.
Big shoulders.
I reckon he might go, Owen Farrell.
Interesting. I'm going back all the way, lads. 97, nostalgia. When I think British and Irish Lions, I think
Scott
Martin
Gibbs.
Johnson. No,
Oh,
I think Scott Gibbs as well. He sat down the great Osterant, but I'm going straight Martin Johnson, icon.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, lads. My hashtag always against Finn Russell's Bath, we'll call him that. He was getting rinsed, which I was surprised at. But yeah, 24 points to Edinburgh, 39 points to Bath. Edinburgh's stuck in, but it's Bath's first European final, if you want to call it that, Challenge Cup final, in 11 years. And worth noting that 21-22 season, before Van Gram joined Bath, they finished bottom of the Prem beneath the Newcastle Falcons. So there's been a big shift at that club. We know how well they're doing in the Prem final last year, top of the log this year. But yeah, huge difference in their style of play now.
Yeah, it wasn't a very Bath performance in reality. And I say that because it was a lot about power, driving line out, the pick and go. The back row was phenomenal, but there wasn't a massive amount of cohesion attack-wise, and that's maybe credit to Edinburgh. But a lot of the points that Bath was scoring were all through the power game, which is a good way of saying they're a very well-balanced team, because we know you can put shape on with Finn in attack, pulling the strings, and the threats that they have in that back line. They're missing Ollie Lawrence massively, I think. But Will Muir...
Cam was good as well in the centre.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. But oh my Will Muir, my old horse. And I hope his piece matches the horse's piece, because he is unbelievably difficult to stop. But Bath, they thoroughly deserve the win. When you resort into your power game, Sam Underhill was class. Miles Reid I thought was brilliant. Pepper as well in the back row. And then Barbary comes on and adds a bit of grunt as well.
He made the difference, I thought, when he came on physically. hungry.
he did.
Around where he scored the try as well, in the corner, just off the back of a breakout. So yeah,
I think why, but I think I agree with you, Goody, that they are missing Ollie Lawrence for that little bit of X factor and things. But I think ultimately what underpins Bath's game is generally how powerful they are, and it allows Spencer and Russell and Lawrence and Redpath and all these guys, Muir, to be able to be on the front foot and play that lovely shape, etc. But I think ultimately it underpins everything is their sort of power game. When they get in the 22, they're such a big pack. They're so difficult to stop. And I think that's what we saw on the weekend. Basically, they were probably the opposite of what we sort of said about Leinster in terms of they were clinical. They were, when they got into that 22, they came away with some powerful scores, and not the flashiest of scores, but pretty effective in knockout rugby. So I think they were worthy winners, but it was tight with about 10 minutes ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
The scoreline probably doesn't reflect how in the game Edinburgh were.
Yeah, they were. Edinburgh were really physical, close to the try line. Like, they did everything. Like, I feel like they gave the best version of themselves. They've not been amazing this year, but physically, with Hamish Watson, Jamie Ritchie, Bradbury as well. Like, I thought the pack were really physical in barring up, because Bath resorted to that power game. But yeah, like, Bath have been one of the form teams this season, haven't they?
James, quick question.
Yes, sir.
Finn Russell was getting the bird left, right and centre. Is that just the Glasgow Edinburgh thing, or
It's a posh thing, I reckon.
Yeah, red trousers there, were there?
Well, I imagine so. That is Edinburgh, and tweed jackets. But no, they've got a good setup at the Hive now, and there's an expectation around Edinburgh fans that they need to be better than they are, and to lose at Bath, we both all agree that the scoreline didn't really reflect the game. They gave a good, decent showing of themselves, but it's all about trying to make the URC playoffs for them.
And for Bath lads, do they just they're what are they, like 10 points ahead at the top of the Prem, maybe a little bit more? Do they sort of just kick back a little bit for the next couple of in a similar situation to Saints, in a way that there's probably not a huge amount on the season Prem wise for Saints? Do they sort of just rest and manage players now for that European final, or do they keep with some continuity and keep playing?
Hard, isn't it? Because I don't want to belittle the Challenge Cup, and I don't know what we calling it, Europe Challenge. Like, we don't even know the bloody names of them now. But
it's just called the Challenge Cup, James.
Okay, we'll call it Challenge Cup. But like, you saw the Sharks in Gloucester last year made the final. It was a good final. The Friday night before the main event on Saturday. You do wonder and you saw that a little bit with how Bath played at the weekend. Like, would they have played like that if it was like the Champions Cup semi-final? Like, I say that with all due. I'm just asking. So I can't answer your question, Biggs, with what they do, but I would say, without speaking for them, it's all about the Prem. I think them winning the Prem this year is priority.
I agree with you, Jim, but also the thing is now, momentum going towards the back end of the season as we are. So this weekend, you'd probably think he'd rest. They've got a good squad, so he'll make a few changes. They're playing Bristol at the Principality, in Bristol's big game, or whatever they're calling it, down there. The week after, they've got Leicester at home, right? And if you start to lose a couple of those, and then you've got the Challenge Cup final the Friday after that, and then it's the last round of the Prem after that, so you've got Sarries away, so that you could sit there and go, we've got no momentum again now, because they're on this. I think they're on a 10-game win streak at the minute, aren't they? Where they're going exceptionally well, but momentum at the back end of the season, as we've seen with other teams coming through, and Sale are on a great run at the minute. Like Bath have got tough games, and it's how you manage that expectation. So I reckon they rest this week and then just try and bar up and beat Leicester the week after, win the Challenge Cup final, because that puts them in good stead. Imagine you lose the Challenge Cup final, then you're like, we're just trying to win the Prem, and then you don't win the Prem because you haven't won another knockout game. And all you end up at the end of the season is with the Prem Cup, and it's like, what the fuck have we done? How have we gotten to this position?
But you both of you guys, Goody, yourself and Jim, would have played in those teams who were competing on both fronts towards the end of the season, weren't you? So, like, what as a player, what did you prefer? Did you prefer just playing, or did you prefer resting, targeting certain matches, or what was the secret for you guys?
Well, Jim didn't start, so he just had to get a game with.
That's a lie. I started the quarters and the semis, and then when it got to the big ones, the big showpiece, I was absolutely
sorry, Jim.
Fucked by the time I got to the end. So it's about managing to get your best players. And look, I was at a club where they had world-class players in my position, but we had like Will Skelton, Maratoji, George Cruz, and for me specifically, it was about getting the team to that final, and however that was, whether or not that meant I started in games that they didn't really care about winning. They never said that, but I kind of felt that when we went up to Newcastle with a 4th string team, but still decent. But yeah, like that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's like the best, with all due respect to the games that are going to be played, you don't want to be playing a game where it kind of doesn't really matter if you win or lose. You've got to be in a position to be fresh for these knockout games.
Well, and they've got Leon in the final then, after they beat Owen Farrell's Racing 92. Although he didn't play for very long anyway, did he?
Ironic though with Faz, he goes off with a head injury, concussion-y kind of thing. From a low tackle, he went low. Did you see it? He got himself clipped. And I'm not laughing, it's just the right thing to do, but I've seen a few clips go around on social media where they're like, he got it wrong because he went too low for him. He wasn't used to it. But
when was the last time you seen Owen Farrell go off with a head knock?
No, you don't.
Exactly. So must have been a bad one if he's gone off.
Yeah, Lyon were good. They won it a few years ago, didn't they, down in Marseille? Was it against you boys, wasn't it, Biggs? Fuck, sorry, mate.
No, it was the year before I signed, and then I signed
care.
and we won it the year after then, so you're all right, Goody Dory.
But, I mean, Lyon are a half-decent team. I expect Bath to win the final, and we'll get onto it in a couple of weeks. But, Lyon did well to put Racing away, who are the most probably frustrating team to support this year in France because they're so up and down. They can be really, really good with some of the players they've got. And Biggs will know a bit more about the players and give detail on that if needed. But, up and down.
Right, lads, before we go, this Thursday, it's the big line squad announcement. So I'm going to reel off a couple of potential bolters, and I want you guys to hit me whether you think they're going or not.
Okay.
Right. Headline, Owen Farrell, yes or no?
No.
No.
Blair Murray?
No.
I put him in last week, Biggs, as a bolter. Fuck it. Yeah. Yeah. 2 Welshmen.
No. I think there's too much quality.
Who's the other Welshman, Jim?
Thomas Williams.
Oh, nice. Tom Jordan?
Yes.
Possibly.
Get off the fence, Biggs. Come on.
I'm going to say yes. Yes.
Does Tom Jordan get in the squad?
Yes.
Yes.
Versatility.
Yes.
Yeah. George Ford?
No.
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 Damn, Biggs.
I'm going to do what Biggs does. I'm going to do like a long pause out of respect. I'm going to do like a respectable pause.
Nicky Smith?
Oh.
No. I'll just say no to everyone so far, apart from Tom Jordan.
No, but I did a long pause because I think he's decent.
Was that what that was? Well done.
That's what it was, yeah.
Okay, so if you say no straight away, you don't really think much of them.
Well, or you don't think they're going to go. You don't think they're the elite of the elite. That's what Goody's doing. Goody's not shy.
Nicky Smith. I'm going to say yes for Nicky Smith. I think he's in with a show.
All right.
Because one of the few Welshmen that maybe there has to be okay, well, if it's a 50-50 call, there's not going to be many Welshmen. Perhaps that gets him the nod.
Maybe a bit light in prop as well.
Good shout. That's a good shout, that one,
Ellis
Roberto.
Genge, Pierre Schumann and Andrew Porter are my 3 loose heads.
Fair enough. Dave Ribbons?
Nope.
I'm going to say yeah.
I think being in France, you have to be considered to be right in the mix in the first team to be taken on tour. And I'm not quite sure Dave is at quite there. So I'm going to say just no.
Oh, mate, that's your own team, mate. You've got to look at him in the...
that's your skips.
You got to look at him in the changing room tomorrow. No wonder you haven't been fucking playing, Biggs. Come on.
I just want to get a line on him. Tell me, I don't know what he's weighing at, but he's a big lock. He's
been ridiculously good for us this year. Line-out caller, carrying, played so many minutes, picked up a little injury over the last couple of weeks, but just being the heartbeat of the team, really, and sort of the go-to guy. So I think if he was playing in the UK, I think my answer would have been yes. But I think being as he is playing in France, there's a possibility that may count against him.
Don't hold me to these, by the way, or us to these.
I'm the same as well.
Hey, we'll chat next week, James. We'll chat next week.
Fraser Dingwall.
Yes, Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-lingers. I love Dingers. I think he's a great player.
No.
No.
I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's going. I think, yeah.
This is a horrible game because basically anyone we say no to, it's coming across as we think they're not very good, isn't it? But I think it's
I used to get 4 out of 10 bigs, so I ain't feeling harsh.
Hey, 4 out of 10 was good for you, James, as
I was
well.
happy with that.
I think it's just come too early for Dingers.
So you're saying in 4 years' time, then, when he's going?
I think he's going in 4 years. Yeah.
All right, nice.
And last one, Henry Polock.
No need to pause, just saying yes.
Yes.
Henry and his big Pollocks.
I think he goes, yeah.
There's the clickbait.
There you go.
There it is, lads. Right then, shall we finish things off with the good, the bad and the ugly?
Yeah, let's start from the good. Lyon get a shout in the good this week. They're back in the Challenge Cup final after beating Racing. They'll be looking to repeat their victory in 2022 against Toulon. So shout out to Lyon. Bath get a mention in the good as well. Powell won them the day up in Edinburgh. They get to their first European final, even if it is only the Challenge Cup. Bath fans in many, many years. So big shout out to the Bath boys like Lee Blackett. Here's one for you. Rugby Austria. I was with my Austrian friend last week, and hello, Rugby Austria. They
Biggs,
get a
how would
shout
your
out.
Austrian accent sound? Can you just do a little bit? Say hello to the Austrians.
Jeepers.
Just say hello.
Hello, Austria.
That's nice. You sound like a porn star, and I like this.
Anyway, Rugby Austria get a shout in the good. They smashed Slovakia. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello. 117 points to 3, James.
Yeah,
in the
that's not
Rugby
hello. That is
Europe
not hello.
Conference.
That is
Imagine the skid marks. Anyway, it was a record victory for Rugby Austria and a great win. And loads of the lads listened to the podcast as well. So shout out to Hello Austria.
Well, hello
how are
to
you?
all of you. Hellos.
What else is good? Bordeaux get a shout in the good this week. They dispatched Toulouse to make their first ever Champions Cup final, so big shout out to them. But the good this week can only go to one place, not just Henry Polock, but he definitely gets a mention. Saints, Henry Polock, his worldie, Tommy Freeman's hat-trick, Finn Smith at the wheel, Curtis Langdon, physicality, the lot of them beating Leinster in their own backyard in an absolute humdinger at the Aviva Stadium. 37-34. The good this week can only go to everyone involved with Northampton Saints, the Shoe Army, all their fans, and the whole club itself. So well done to Saints. Can't wait to see you in the final.
Can I just say one thing on that? I don't like the shoe army. Even though I probably started Das Booty Scooten, which was drinking out of shoes, I think I started that about 25 years ago. And I'm not a fan of it. I don't know. If you're going to do it, it's got to be out of the Das Booty Scooten, like as in a cowboy boot or a horse riding boot.
Why are they known as the Shoe Army, Jim?
They put shoes in the Chinese all-you-can-eat buffets.
No, Biggs, you obviously know, don't you?
Yeah, Church's the shoes originated made in Northampton.
My word.
Yeah.
So,
What, the first
my
ever
shoes.
shoes made in Northampton?
Well, it's the big industry out of Northampton.
It's a big industry there. I mean, that's
historically,
a hell of a
isn't it?
claim from you, Rob, but
I wouldn't say the first ever shoe, but you know.
I can tell you now, Roberto isn't that. He doesn't even know what a church shoe is. It's a rich man's shoe, Rob, effectively.
There we go. The bad, few bits of bad. It broke just after we did our podcast last week, but Exeter, Jim mentioned Tony Rowe. I hope he had chewing gum. He wasn't very happy in the changing room after the Gloucester game, but they went on that evening after our podcast to basically suspend Rob Hunter and Ali Heifer, and now they've sacked / mutual consented Rob Hunter, got rid of him in the week. So that's a bit of bad news. Exeter fans, what the hell's going on there? What else is bad? Injuries for the Lions players. Caelan Doris leading those with his shoulder. We saw a few other names. Matt Hansen. Is he going to be all right, Jim?
I hope so.
So do I. Ankle injury. Matt Hansen. Tuipulotu out injured. Blair Kinghorn out injured. The list goes on of
And
injuries.
there'll be more, unfortunately.
There will be. So a few injury worries for Andy Farrell and the coaches. What else is bad? Anyone that just didn't give Saints a chance, a.k.a. Jim Hamilton, basically saying bet your house on Leinster winning it. Right, James? Anything to say?
Well, I think we all did, Andrew. I don't think it was just me, was it? But you can say it's me. I'm vulnerable today.
He's vulnerable, yeah. Let's blame Jim. So anyone that didn't give Saints a chance gets shot in the bad, but the bad this week can only go to one place, one team. As Rob called them, this is Rob Rogan's words, the perennial chokers. You can't say that, Rob. It's out of order. We love Dublin. Just because you never come, you cannot abuse Leinster like that. But they were humbled by Saints. Another year not lifting the trophy.
having Jordie Barrett on the bench, whether that was a coaching decision or a decision from above with the RFU, we will never know, but a bit of madness. Leinster, maybe next year. But that's why Leinster win the bad this week. And then the ugly, only one bit of ugly really. We had to go digging for this because there was no red cards really anywhere. There was no late hits, there was no nothing. Apart from Jim Hamilton.
My walk-off. I
was thinking about that. Jim Hamilton's walk-off from, what was the club called?
Bridgnorth. Big shout out to them.
Jim Hamilton's walk-off from Bridgnorth Rugby Club on Saturday night. But Joseph Suaalii gets the ugly this week. His hit on his Aussie teammate Noah Lolosio. Lolosio got his pass away and then got shoulder charged by Suaalii, and the referee didn't say anything. Nor the TMO, just play on. So shoulder charge, no. Not
$1 million
doing it,
man.
Joseph Suaalii. Basically, let's start turning on the Aussies.
He's getting paid too much for anybody to come in and intervene for that.
Exactly.
Right, lads, couple of shout-outs.
Right, we've got a load. As always, big shout out to you who are sending in the shout outs. But firstly, we need to shout out How of Fife. How you doing, pal? For doing the double this year. Their first 15 won the Scottish National League Division 3 and their seconds won the Caledonia Regional Division 2, with both teams earning promotion. So congratulations to How of Fife RFC.
Yeah, a massive shout out as well to Cottenham Renegades, who toured Dublin this weekend and had a classic encounter with Old Belvedere, which finished up 39-all before the Leinster Saints game. So, well done to everyone at Cottenham Renegades. Hope I didn't see you. Can't remember much.
We've got a quick shout out, lads, to Jonathan Stone and the Skewing under-11s, who were pool winners at the Tigers Challenge. Any of you know where Skewing is?
No.
Wales.
In Wales, yeah, not a million of miles where I was. So there's a few listeners in Skewing, so big shout out to them.
Well, hopefully the under-11s aren't listening. Even though I've stemmed my swearing, I got told by many people I need to stop swearing, so I have. I think I've only sworn once. Should maybe do a swear-tin. But this is a get well soon message to Aidan, who's undergoing some pretty serious spinal surgery. His Mrs. Emma's sent us a message to say he's a big fan. So from all of us on the pod, good luck, mate, and hope everything goes well with the op.
Yeah, hope the op goes well, Aidan. Big shout out to first team captain Jack Paffett ahead of his 100th cap this Saturday. Old Bristolians, Bristols are in the semi-final of the Papa John's Cup against Swanage and Wareham. So good luck to skipper Jack Paffett on his 100th cap for old Bristolians, Bristols.
And finally, lads, we need to give a shout out to Pennycook Rugby Club in Midlothian, because it's everything a rugby club should be: supportive, inclusive, and rooted in the heart of the community. So shout out Pennycook and keep up the good work.
Hello, boy. Pennycook's round the corner from me.
Get down there, Jim.
Well, no,
Do an
'cause I'll
after-dinner
probably
speech and don't walk off stage.
I was going to say, try and complete an evening with them, Jim. Yeah.
Oh, my word. Gosh, there's a big IOU there. So I should do a shout-out to Bridgnorth as well, shouldn't I?
There you go.
Yeah, I've already done it. I've apologised. There's nothing more I can do. If you're ill, you're ill. You know what I mean? I've front up all my life and I've made one misstep. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all she wrote. Okay, it's been a hell of a few days. My goodness me, we've got a few more to look forward to. So big thank you to everyone, as always, lads, right?
100%. Cheers, Rob. Cheers, Biggs.
Thanks, lads.
Thank you, James. But mainly,
Thanks, lads.
thanks to all the listeners. And make sure you've subscribed on Spotify.
Yeah, hell of a show. Rugby Spot.
Rugby Spot.
Spot.